Okay, so we are in Puerto Rico. This is Carla Lopez.
Yes.
Carla, would you introduce yourself and tell us where we are?
Hi, yes, I'm Carla Lopez. I'm the CZO technician here in Luquillo, Puerto Rico. This is a stream called QUEBRADA SONADORA. It's one of our main sites that's been studied for a long time. Here we have a setup of some stream sensors, which is one of our main things. These are two stream sensors in our stream that measure water quality. One of them measures nitrate concentration. The other one measures different parameters. It measures pH, conductivity, turbidity, and surrogate for FDOM, CDOM. We also have other sensors that measure water level and also the light that comes into the stream.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah.
So, as Carla was saying, this is a place where they measure lots of water quality parameters, and they also measure the stream flow, which is very useful to do when you're also measuring water quality. And you can see here there's a staff gauge, which is a place where it has the levels there, and the technician can come out and make note of what the level is each time they take a hand sample. But down here, there's also a water pressure sensor. I think the one here is a hobo gauge. Is that a hobo?
A hobo sensor.
A hobo sensor. So it's measuring the water pressure. And there's also an air pressure sensor. And so from the difference of the air pressure and the water pressure, you can get the height of the water level above the sensor. And when you know the height of the water level, you can start to get make some measurements that will get you towards knowing the discharge. So this is the place. You can see here there's a little rock ledge here, and it drops off about maybe 10 feet there. And because you have that drop off there, you'll get critical flow, which means that what happens downstream doesn't have an effect on what happens upstream. So this means this is a good place to put a gauge. To get from the water level to the discharge though, someone needs to come out here every now and then and walk across this bridge and measure the flow velocity at multiple locations. And by measuring the flow velocity at multiple locations and making note of what the stream stage was at that time, they can say when they know then when the stream is this level, you get this discharge. And then by doing that lots of times, you build up this rating curve that says when you have this level, you get this discharge. And then by combining that rating curve with the time series of the water pressure down there, you can get a time series of the discharge coming through the stream. And then that data combined with the wonderful data that Carla and her associates measure, we can get measurements not just of the amount of discharge, but also the amount of nitrate and the amount of oxygen and other things that are moving downstream, organic matter that are moving downstream in the water. And that helps us understand his ecosystem and his landscape. Okay, so we're at the MAMEYES stream, MAMEYES River, which is part of the Luquillo Critical Zone Observatory. This is the broken bridge gauge, which is also called, which is in Spanish, Puente Roto.
Yeah.
You want to say it right?
Puente Roto.
Okay, thank you, Carla. So over here I've got a US Geological Survey stream gauge. You can't see there's a green box up there, which is where the instrumentation is. But you can see a pipe coming down here, and that pipe has a bubbler in it. So there'll be a tube going down under the water, and all that's happening there is there's a pump at the top which is slowly forcing air out the bottom of that tube. And it's basically measuring what pressure it has to push to get air to come out the bottom of that tube. And that tells it what the water level is. And from the water level, you can get the discharge. This is a great way to measure water elevation in a situation where you don't actually want to have expensive equipment in the stream to measure the pressure. You can imagine here, there's probably quite large flows that come through every now and then. If you have instrumentation in the river, it might get swept away. A bubbler like this is a great option because it means that all there is a tube. Beautiful place. we'll go swimming there then. Alright, okay. We are at the ICACOS field site of the Luquillo Critical Zone Observatory. This is a very different catchment from the other ones we were looking at earlier. The other ones were on more volcaniclastic geology, and so they had more basalt and fine-grained rocks that tended to produce clay sorts of soils. Here we're on quartz diorite. This is the old igneous heart of what was once an ancient volcano. It has cooled slowly and formed a rock that is more like a granite. You know, it's got sort of big crystals of quartz and plagioclase feldspar. And so the stream around us here, you can see, has all this sand in it. It's a sandy bottom stream. You just have big rocks and you have sand. There's nothing in between in the grain sizes of the bed. Whereas in the other streams, you tended to have big rocks and then smaller rocks and smaller rocks and smaller rocks and smaller rocks. So it's very different. This stream is also being sampled regularly by Carla Lopez and other people from the Critical Zone Observatory, from the US Geological Survey. Is this an LTER site as well?
All of it is sort of LTR slash Forest Service.
Yeah, Forest Service, LTER are all sort of doing work in this area. Here we've got some instrumentation from the Critical Zone Observatory and from the US Geological Survey. I'm not sure what the Geological Survey has here, but I'm guessing it probably, I know that they're sampling up above for stable water isotopes in the precipitation, and my guess is they're probably also sampling for stable water isotopes here as well. On the left here, though, we've got the Critical Zone Observatory infrastructure, which has two probes here, two sondes. The one on the left is a water quality sonde that's measuring a bunch of parameters, pH, conductivity. This one's measuring CDOM as well.
Yes.
CDOM. And the one on the right is the SUNA continuous nitrate sensor. So this is a sensor that uses light to measure the absorption of the water at the specific wavelengths at which it can measure the nitrate concentration. That's fairly new technology, and those things are quite expensive.
Something's happening.
Something's happening. Don't know what.